Okay, now I think we're on. I apologize. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. I've been so excited about this. We have Tara, which we have had Tara on before, and she's amazing. But now we have Grace, and she's a designer for Estetica. So she's going to talk all about design and her journey. And if you have any specific questions or comments, this is the time. She's right here. Ask the things. But let's go ahead and get started. So just in general, thank you for coming. And what is your background and like sort of your journey into wig design, and how'd you get here?
I love that question. And I love asking people that question because I feel like, the business of wigs is so unique and so non-mainstream, right? So it's like people just don't even realize, right, how amazing wigs are, and the world of wigs and the wig community, just what an amazing group of people and a wonderful industry to work in. It really is. And it's a shame that it's not mainstream, but it's not like your mainstream thing, like, being a teacher or whatever. So I was a high school teacher. I trained. I loved teaching. I just went to a former student's wedding. They got Island Doll got married to Greg Jarmus. I called it. And so I got certified. It was awesome. But yeah, I loved teaching. I actually loved the kids more than the material. Mm-hmm. But eventually, I ended up getting pregnant, and I was like, okay, I'll take maternity leave, then I'll go back. And when I was planning on going back, I got pregnant again. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to go back. And then I got
going back.
I know. And then unexpectedly, I got pregnant a third time. So I was like, this is just not what works here. So in between that time, I was looking for sort of a part-time job. And I found something just doing sort of like marketing a little bit here and there. And Estetica had this opening. And I was like, oh, let me just see. Like, I love being social. I love people. I love, marketing itself. So I kind of came on board that way. So, and then it slowly started to change into, a full-time position. I got lucky enough to plant myself here at Estetica, and, that's how it's been since.
And that's so funny how it's like, we were talking when we met, it's like sometimes where we end up isn't necessarily where we plan to, but it makes sense in our journey. We just didn't know that ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So we do have some questions. So you started as a teacher, and essentially you pointed out a great thing about the wig world in general. But I do think that it's not typical, it's not mainstream, and I'm kind of glad that it's not, just because like you having a background in teaching is so necessary, and just in other maybe design fields or positions, people wouldn't get that there's such that element of teaching. I used to be a therapist, and with working with people and fitting them with wigs, especially because they may have health related issues or what have you. Those are just skills that you wouldn't know until you got to the wig world that you needed. So I love that you're sharing that. So Estetica is known for sort of high quality wigs. I'm wearing Miss Mellow right now in my brand new favorite Copper Sunset. I'm doing the messy do.
It's so cute. Really cute.
I actually have two clips. I have a clip here and then a clip in the back, because I don't like stuff in my face, but I was like, I want to look like I'm professional, but also easy, So Mellow is a great one for that.
Aww.
So how do you...
I just had the nicest comment. They said, big fan of you, Grace. Oh, that's like so sweet. You're going to make me cry.
Well, somebody's also asking if there are plans to add even more wigs in the new reds.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of these are just asked questions, so why don't we answer that, because that's a good question. Do you have any more plans for the new reds that just came out, or reds in general, or what you're gonna do?
Yeah,
you can.
Absolutely. So Brenda, absolutely. We're slowly kind of rolling this out. One of the questions I think that Tia, you had thought about asking, or had asked me before, is like, how do we decide, what colors or what styles to expand things to? And if you guys have noticed, when we first come out with a news color, we always test them out in our like best selling styles. Because that way we know if it's not really going to sell in an Avalon, which is like one of our best selling styles, maybe this is not really the best color to continue to expand. Whenever I create new colors, I like to test them out in, the styles that people love. Because it's kind of a good test case scenario for us. And the reds have done really well. And absolutely we are going to add them to even more wigs, I think, because they've just done well. But it really does depend. Some of the styles aren't going to take the colors as well. Like Golden Ginger is not a color that can be, expanded to short styles. It's never going to come out the same way. So most likely something like Golden Ginger would be like mid-length to longer. But yes, absolutely.
I'm glad you said that because I had posted our so Tara and I had done this before. We do it first in the private Facebook group. That's why you want to join this, because if you actually want to be live and asking the questions, that's the best way. But I do end up uploading it about a month or so later on my YouTube channel. And there's actually a lot of questions from the last one, which was about the reds just in general coming out. But one of the questions is like, why is it not on Hudson? Why is it not on this? And I'm so glad you're saying that because, you know, everybody has their favorites and that's awesome. But we were even talking about, in relation to another color, how certain lengths or curly versus straight, sometimes you love that style, but the color does not do it justice. So it's kind of like, you know, you have to decide what really works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't hate it, but I hate when somebody tells me like a style that they love and they're like, make it in this color. Why doesn't it come in more colors? And I wish it could come in every color that everybody wants it to come in, you know, but sometimes it just unfortunately doesn't make sense to do so. So
well, that's I love that we're having this conversation because I don't think people always know. And so that kind of leads into like, what's your creative process, whether it's these new reds or a new style or, you know, bringing on heat defiant fibers? Like, what is your process for deciding all the different things that people could want, do want, say they want, don't know they want? How do you figure it out?
I don't think I don't think I figure anything out. I wish I did, but I mean, I really feel like I'm just sort of muddling through like anybody else. Like I was just telling Tara, like I don't think I'm a designer. You know, I think I look at the wig wearing community and I'm like, there are designers out there that are far better at handling the wigs, wearing them, designing them, looking at them, seeing them. You know, sometimes I feel like a little bit of a fraud, but you know, I enjoy what I do, and I love the community that we do this for. So like for me, that's just like the most rewarding, you know, possible situation. But in terms of just the design process, it really is such a long and arduous process, mostly when it comes to styles. And you know, I'm glad you asked this because it really is almost like a painful process. I take it so personally because I'm constantly looking around at like styles that I like or colors that I like, things that pop into my head. I have these like boards where I just constantly are like saving images and pictures. And I've learned, you know, as a young designer, I've learned like, oh, some of these things the factories can never make. It's just not possible. As much as I push them, I'm like, well, I want it to look like this or I want it to look like this. And they'll send me back something and it's just like, nope, try again, nope. And then they finally tell me, Grace, like what you want, we cannot actually make.
Yeah.
You know, we can't get those, whether it's a layer or this or that. So I've learned to be able to see things and be able to kind of say, okay, I think this is something that is probably not going to come out the way I want it to come out, that it's not within the, you know, abilities of a factory and mass production. And that's a really hard lesson to learn. And so I send these things out to the factories. They come back to me with different prototypes. And, you know, from there I work. I say, okay, I like this one, but I want you to do it like this. I want you to take a little bit off here. This is a little bit too dense or whatever it might be. It'll go back to them. It'll come back to me. And it could be a couple of rounds. And then just when you think, okay, great, they made it great, you know, they send you out something called a pre-production sample. Dawn, that's a great question. How long between sketch to actual product? That's so painful. You know, it could be, honestly, like I've had a product in the works, a style in the works for like months. And then all of a sudden another brand comes out. Yeah, even years. Another brand comes out. I'm like, oh my God, I've been working on this and now they have it. It looks exactly the same. I'm like, oh, you know, it's like so upsetting because I've been working on it for so long, you know? But the reason it takes so long is because there is no way we will ever put a product out unless we are absolutely, as much as we can, you know, be sure that it's going to be what we want and the quality we want it at. So when I get that pre-production sample, that could be like a year of finally after going back and forth perfecting it. And that's only one wig they're sending back and forth. They're not doing mass production. So it's much easier to make the one wig look good. So they'll finally send me something called a pre-production sample, which will be like, okay, we know you approved this, but this is right before we mass produce. This is the sample we want you to also, you know, approve. They send that to me. And then it could be great. And then they'll produce it and I'll come in and I'll see it. And I'll be like, oh my God, what happened? This doesn't look anything like there's so many issues. Is it packaging? Is it this? You know, and I'll have to send the whole shipment back. With one of our styles, Farron, which was one of my favorite styles, a pure stretch cap, just a machine-made gorgeous style. Yeah, that was really cute. Back and forth, back and forth. I sent back 2 whole shipments twice, so hundreds of pieces. And because I have such a good relationship with the factory, they're like, Grace, let's try it again. I was like, okay. And it came back cold set. It was a cute style, but it wasn't fair. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. We had already made the assets up. We had it in our catalog. And I was like, I will not put this out. I'm sorry. I can't put it out. It's not what it's supposed to be. So we had to ditch the whole thing. And we had to cut it out. I mean, we had all the assets made. It was in our catalog. Utterly embarrassing. But for me, like, I'm not going to put out a product that's not good enough for you guys as much as I can, you know. And that goes to like, so what happened to those pieces? You know, those pieces, they were donated. So they were fine. They just weren't, it wasn't the style. So we donated them. And then a bunch of them also went to Del Mar College. So they could like, it's people who are like trained to be stylists, and they, we gave it to them
to
work on the wigs. So
yeah,
I mean,
they have to know.
be a positive thing in that respect, but
I feel like from what I've seen you do, like things have taken about a year almost,
if not more.
Yeah, like
I feel like that's a good time frame. I mean, like that's consistent with the beauty world too. I think before I got into retailing in general, you see that. And now I think it's important to say that, but I also think it's important to say that there is sort of a difference between what you're talking about and like some people will be like, well, XYZ company, like maybe a beauty supply store company, they're releasing stuff all the time, they're doing this, doing that, but it's a different quality, it's a different process, and the production is just different. And yeah, that's true, but in a month from now, you know, that same company also discontinues left and right. And that's one thing people get so upset about. They're like, this is my signature style. And they don't like when things are discontinued. So it's like, it's a give and take. Like, yeah, you guys could probably produce stuff all the time. And then just if it doesn't sell that month, then it's gone. You know, there's a big company that does that. They come out with a lot, they discontinue a lot, which is totally fine. But the Estetica customer is pretty loyal. And once they get into it, it's like, that's all they want, you know, like their oceans per se, maybe coming out in, you know, a Copper Sunset. I don't know, just throwing it out there. But, you know, once they get their style, they're still going to wear that style a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now.
It's such an honor. Like when people say that, that's like, this is our style. That is like the most amazing feeling in the world, you know, because that's why we do what we do. Alice asked, will there be more blondes in the future? Interesting. Asked, because Tara, I had you try on that new blonde. So there is. I am working on one.
Didn't I see
currently.
One?
Did you?
I think I saw one.
Oh, yeah.
You had me try it on and give me my feedback. Yeah.
Love the style too.
I really like that.
Yes. So Alice, there will be, and hopefully it'll be one that you like.
I think one of the things about the blonde, the feedback that I'm hearing from people who say they want more blondes, I think they're not as specific as saying they really are looking for that cool toned and neutral blonde, because I do think there's enough warmer leaning blondes, and sometimes people I don't think really even realize that that's what they actually mean, because I'm like, you know, Estetica has some really nice rooted blondes, and then when they're talking to me about it, I'm like, oh, okay, so you really want a cool tone blonde specifically is what you're looking at, and that I think is lacking in the market overall. It's kind of hard to find. But like, what do you think about that? Maybe that feeds into trends or something, because cool tone stuff wasn't in, then it was. Same with makeup, cool tone, warm tone, neutral. Like, how does that factor into everything as well, especially with that sort of year cycle of bringing things in?
That's such a great question, because there'll be times where it's like we want to capitalize on a color that, I mean, I'll see a color like, oh, that's such a great color, you know, but then it's just a color of the moment. And by the time we actually have the sample in and we're ready to release it, it's not as popular. I definitely keep my eye open for trends, but I think for me, I hope to create the lasting, you know. I like to have those pieces that are really like wow pieces that are trendy, that kind of catch your eye. But I think the most important thing is just to have styles that are as universal as possible so that people will love them, you know. It's hard to find out what that is. Everybody has like different tastes, but you know, like a jet, that's like a style that I just love, because I feel like no matter what your age, no matter where you are in life, like you can play with that and make it, you know, exactly what you want. And that's the kind of style I would love to just continue to, you know, bring out. It's a great classic style that can be used in any way. And, you know, that's the kind of thing I look at mostly.
So one question I have that's not on here, but I just had a live sale specifically to talk about larger caps versus petite. And in that one, I only brought in ones that were labeled that way. But during the sale and just in general, when I'm talking and doing content, that's also sort of this weird caveat of who determines what's average. You know what I'm saying? So I know a lot of people love Estetica because it is a little bit larger than average of other companies. So that being said, do you have plans to expand your petite line? Because you don't really need like a larger cap size because you're already there. So do you have any plans to expand the Petite?
Currently, no, because I'm working on a couple other things, but that's definitely something that is always sort of back there that I'm going to return to. That's why I also like the Heat Defiant, because our Heat Defiant styles will always have the Velcro adjusters, and they are always, that makes it a little bit smaller. So
it does.
It's kind of cheating it a little bit, you know, making sure that we have like a little bit of a smaller cap, but it'll be very much isolated to Heat Defiant. I will go back to that, but I'm still in the process of developing couple of other newer things before I return back to that.
Let's stick with the reds first. Are you planning to expand any of the reds to the Heat Defiant fibers? Now, I know 7.
Interesting. I guess I'll give you some insider information.
Ooh, insider information.
I'm working on expanding the Smokehouse collection, and one of the colors in there is the most fabulous red, and it's in a polyester fiber, so the color is just amazing. It kind of is reminiscent of the reds, but there's something a little bit more there.
Smokehouse?
Yeah, and it's going to be fully heat resistant. I'm working, and this goes along again with what happens. I'm working on this really amazing pink and this sort of grayish, brownish, like really awesome tone. I'd seen it at the factory. I was like, I love it. Send it to me. They sent it to me. I said, okay, I want to see how it translates in different styles. When they say those, are like, well, we changed the color because the root was bleeding in the polyester. I'm like, that's not that color. We're still going back and forth. It's been almost a year. In November, it'll be a year that I'm going back.
That'll be really exciting, because the grayish sort of thing, whether it's, you know, a gray with a brown mix, or, you know, it's been popular for a while and people are really leaning towards that. And I think with that whole Smokehouse, you know, you have sort of that smoky matte. I mean, some of those colors, I have said over and over again, are some of the most unique colors that you almost can't even photograph it. When you see it to your naked eye, especially like chocolate smoke, you're like, is that slate blue? Yes, it is. But it doesn't, you can't really see it till you get there.
Elizabeth had a great point. I know the fashion colors, this was one of the hardest things I had to give up. Smoky Rose is actually a mix. It's not 100% polyester fiber, and it's not 100% just monocrylic, what we normally, like our standard fiber. It's actually a mix between polyester and regular fiber. For that reason, we couldn't root it, because the rooting takes differently on a polyester fiber than it does on the standard fiber. So the rooting would have a great possibility of being very uneven. So as much as I wanted to root it, I gave that up for that color particularly, but there is I'm looking at a pinky color that's gonna have a root if I can get that right.
Well, that's awesome.
Somebody
can always
asked for like a cool brunette with maybe like some grayish gray. I think it might have been Brenda. She commented a few minutes ago, and I was gonna say she should check out the chocolate smoke, because I feel like the chocolate smoke can kind of like go in that direction, be like a brown with some grayish in it, you know, because it's like kind of smoky looking.
Mm-hmm. It definitely can. I think the issue, that's my assistant, so I know she does have this chocolate smoke. I think for some people, it's that it does read a little darker. So if you're looking for, more of a mid-tone. I also think this Copper Sunset is in that same vein of the Lilac Haze or the Chocolate Smoke, because when you really get, like, this just looks like, you know, sort of a red rooted with some highlights. But when you get in close, there's so much more happening. When you look at it with your naked eye, you're like, wait a second, is that a strand of this? Is that a strand of that? So that's one of the things I love about Estetica, is like when you get them dynamic in your eye and you're out in your light and it's catching different light, there's so much going on. These aren't just like flat colors, which is exciting, especially with the reds, because sometimes reds can be really flat.
Thank you, Alice. That's so nice of you. You said we really knocked it out of the park with the Heat Defiant. Thank you. You guys, I'm like being totally honest. Like, the feedback that I get, whether it's positive or negative, it really means so much to me. And it really impacts me personally, you know, because I feel like the business of wigs is such a personal business. And just creating them, designing them, and having people wear them is just such a personal thing to me. And I when people say they love something, it really has such an impact on me. And if they say they don't like it either, if they give me information about like what they think is wrong with it, that's so important to me too. And I take it very seriously. So thank you for saying that.
I definitely agree. I also have to say that working with Tara, meeting you, seeing you talk and interact, you guys can buy from anybody, but guaranteed 100%, the team at Estetica cares about their customers. They care about the retailers. They care about collaboration and relationships. And at the end of the day, like that means so much. Especially because, like you're saying, it's just not this transactional, like, I bought a wig, I moved on with my day. You know, for some people, they couldn't leave for their day because they didn't have a wig that they felt good in.
Alice, I'm so glad that you've been joining lives. That's so awesome. I'm so glad that you enjoyed them. Hopefully you'll be at the next one. We're going to be doing something about like asking you guys what you want to see, but I'm not going to, okay, I don't want to mess with your life, Dia. I'm just saying that right now. Okay.
So Angie's saying that she was the one that was talking about the cool tones, and she was talking about a true cool tone brunette with highlights. So yeah, I guess the chocolate smoke is a little bit too dark is what she's saying. That mid-tone cool. What's that, Tara? It's the one you send me all the time. I think it's is it the R14/8?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool tone when I have it next to other brunettes. And it's one that people don't show very often and don't talk about. So
I know.
I will make it a point to talk about that a little bit more because it really is cool when I put it on. So sometimes it's just exploring. You guys have some great colors. Like when we did a Reds expansion live sale, I had, you know, some here and there in the Spice and the Vogue, and people were like, oh, they have those colors. Like, so I think sometimes people don't realize that there's so much more. Like even with the grays, when we did that, people were like, wow, that's a beautiful gray. And it's like, this has been around Estetica for a minute. How do you balance that in terms of what's new? And you obviously want to highlight what's new, styles or colors, versus what you have that's great that maybe isn't getting noticed as much.
I feel like we're always kind of figuring out like different ways to try and do that, because I feel like even we forget about that sometimes, you know, like when we talk about ideas for what we want to do for our lives, like, you know, sometimes just a really simple idea of like showing off our short styles because we know them, but not everybody does. So I feel like it's just like a constant brainstorm of what can we do to just show simple things, and like just reminding ourselves that we know what's going on, we know what we have, but not everybody does. And I think it's really hard for customers because you have so many options. Like, where do you even start? It's so difficult. There's so many different colors and the color codes are hard. So I feel like just trying to like remember, just like take a step back and simplifying things, you know, because it's like I said, like, not everybody knows that what we have. So just kind of starting from like just showing off the browns that we have, you know. Not everybody wants like a copper sunset. They might just want a cool brown with highlights. So yeah, I think it's definitely a difficult balance. Yeah. I feel like we're always like just constantly trying to think of ways to do that.
Yeah, to figure out like, you know, even through social media or through emails or through our newsletters, trying to like sometimes focus on, you know, highlighting a style that people don't really know about, but is a great stylist. So kind of going through what Dawn was saying, what are styles that are great but need some love? I mean, a lot of times we'll do a focus on that for like on social media. You know, there's a style that's totally underrated. You know, it's a great style, but I just, there's some things where I've had them come out and I'm like, I love that style so much. Like, I don't understand why it's not doing well, you know? And there's other things definitely that come out like, oh, that was a total miss. Like, what happened there? Like, what was I thinking? Like, that looks terrible, right? But that's a great question. I love how Andrew said, you know, it is. The wig world is overwhelming. You know, having all of those decisions in terms of like all the different permutations, whether it's like your cap construction, whether it's like, you know, the colors, it's like,
it's overwhelming. And, you know, that's why I try to work with my customers one-on-one and ask them as many questions as possible. And like we said before, a lot of times people will think they know what they want, but we know like, okay, what you want in a synthetic fiber isn't going to work, or you probably want heat safe fiber. It's definitely overwhelming. I think it would be cool to maybe partner up on our next live sale. People love the themes. I mean, maybe that's the theme, is great styles that need love, and have them see them, you know, and have that be more of a focus. Because I remember when you brought up to me Sky. People were like losing their minds, and they didn't even know Sky was a style from Estetica.
Yeah, I mean, Angie, my heart goes out to you because I feel like it was so overwhelming. I have a hard time making decisions, but when there's so many choices, I'll tell you a story. I went into a tea shop with a friend of mine, and the entire wall, I'm not kidding, was like all these teas. I think it was like 100. And I looked at them, and I was like, nope, and I just walked out. I was like, I can't do this. Like, it's just, I was so overwhelmed. Like, I just want tea, you know? And it's like, I just want my style. And it's like, where is it? Like, it's so overwhelming.
When I first started with Estetica, I don't know if you guys have seen The Devil Wears Prada.
Yep.
But there's this one scene where she comes out and she's got 2 different belts. And she's like, which one do I choose? And like her whole team is like, I don't know, like they're so different. And the one girl is like, they're literally like the same belt. But like, I feel like when you're looking for something like a wig to fit you and your personal style and the way you want it to look, like, it is so specific. Like somebody can see straight hair and then another person will see like straight hair with like kind of, you know, a wave to it or like a highlight, and somebody wants more highlights. Like it's so specific to somebody's eye that it's so hard and overwhelming. Like there's just so many options out there. And so to know what everyone has to offer is so difficult.
And Angie, you're absolutely right. You know, wigs are such an investment because the cost, you know, and I think one of the things that, you know, we try and do the most, like Tia asked me before, like, how do you decide what goes into a collection or whatever? And I mean, as much as possible, I really try and think about like, does this really need this? You know, Veil's a great example. Does Veil really need a lace front? Because that's just going to add, you know, an extra cost, you know, and it is, if the style doesn't need it. I mean, it's kind of a nice little like added addition, but I'm like, let me just try it with just a lace part, you know, because I want to try and give people as opportunities and options there, because it's a costly investment.
Yeah.
The thing that hurts the most is when you hear people say like, you know, I got this wig and it was like, I thought it was right and I spent all this money and it's just like not me. And you're like, oh, like, you know, it's a journey, you know, an overwhelming one too. So
especially if you don't have the option to like go somewhere and try these wigs on, you know, for people that are ordering online, like I feel like it's almost twice as hard to figure out what you're looking for and what you want and need.
Or like, for example, like a new wig wearer, the biggest thing I always say is like, you have people like Tia, like you do such an amazing job of like helping to educate, to show everything. Like the only thing I could say for a new wig wearer is that there's a community out there of such amazing people.
Yes.
It is
reach out, lean on them, ask them the questions. They will answer you.
Yes, and Tia, you do such a great job of like showcasing things, explaining things, like taking the time because you care about the people that you are partnering with, you know? And that's what you have to find, not a place that's going to be like, okay, you want this wig here, let me send it to you, you know? And there's resources out there. There's like an amazing community of women and who just really support each other. And I mean, I learned from it. I mean, I was so overwhelmed by like just wigs in general, and just I learned so much from people like yourself and people in the wig wearing community. Like teach me so much, you know, like you guys are amazing. Like there's no school to go to.
The community is amazing.
It is, and there's no school to go to it, but it's like people just learn their own stuff and they happily just like share it. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome. Right side parts. I know, Angie, it's such a great question. Unfortunately, I guess it's the majority, like our factories, like I don't know why. I mean, everyone just does that left side part. I don't know if it's because that's the majority of the way people part it. Anybody who's a right side parter, you are so cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm so sorry that like we live in a world of what it seems like left side parters, you know, but outside of Lana, you're right. But one thing that you can always try is we do have like deeper lace fronts on certain styles, like Ocean.
My favorite cap construction of all time is that deep lace front. It's temple to temple. It's wide enough. You can do it in the middle. You can pull it back because I like a little pullback. I say that constantly. And honestly, there are a couple of other brands that have that lace front edge, but not many. And that is the one thing. If I'm talking to a new wig wearer, I will steer them towards one of the Estetica wigs with that wide lace front edge, because I'm like, you don't even know what you don't know yet. You don't know if you are a right side or left side, or maybe you can't have the bangs in your face, or you haven't worn this to work yet and you're not sure what's going to happen. You get the best of both worlds. The price points are right in the middle, not crazy. It's going to get you styling versatility, and then you can figure it out. So if you figure out you're always on the left side or the right, or you're always in the middle, okay, great. But then you're not losing as much money because that style is versatile. Yes, you can do that with a monotop. There's a little playing around that you have to do with the monotop. I actually tell new wig wearers to avoid monotops at first, because I think there is a little styling and getting it together and then they get so upset. So I'm like, listen, Estetica, wide lace front edge. I'm telling you, it's your go-to. If you're running late, you don't have to mess with it. It doesn't matter if you're like, today I needed to be in the part in the middle and this wig doesn't have it, and you don't listen, you're never going to go wrong. Scoop up one at every length. There's one at every length. Just have that one for the just in case. Oh no, you wanted to go to T. I'm not ready. Let me just throw it on. Always have that wig. That's my advice to the new wig wearer. Always have the wig that you know you feel comfortable in, and that if you have to run out, you can feel okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was just gonna say that I feel like also like as a new wig wearer, like you don't have to have a million styles and colors. You know, like if you just find one style and color that you love, just you can stick with that. I feel like it's similar to clothing, you know, like you always see these new trends coming out and it's like there's pressure of all these ads everywhere to like buy a bunch of new stuff, but like you don't need to have that. You can still look great and feel great and just the simple style and color that you love and looks good on you, you know?
Well, and I think it's important that, you guys are willing to listen. We're all here to help. The community is here. So, to just in general wrap up for everybody, whether you're watching this live, you're watching this in the replay, in the group, you're watching this as an upload in a month from now, all this information is valuable. Put your comments down below, ask the questions, reach out. I guarantee you, Grace is listening and watching, Tara's listening and watching. I'm always here to support. The community wants to help you shorten your learning curve because they were there too. Whether they've been wearing wigs 20 years or 20 minutes, like there's always stuff we learn from each other, and we do want to help. It is a helpful community. Ask the questions, do a little research, and if you don't know where to start, just message me and say, I don't know where to start, and we will totally get you on board. I'll probably send you to a wide lace front Estetica wig, but I'm just saying, we will get you fixed up so that learning curve, which will be there, will be shorter, and then you can just get to, okay, I found my groove, I know what I like, and have some fun. So anything you want to part us with, any sneak peeks? You did kind of say that. Any new launches, anything that people should be thinking about or looking for with regard to Estetica?
Well, we do have a couple of really cool things that are coming out, a new collection of styles. It'll be out hopefully, like I always say, I hope it comes out, but when it comes in, who knows what it's going to look like at this point, like I was supposed to get the shipment in August. We'll do 100% inspection, and I'm crossing my fingers that it's good enough. It's devastating when I have to like say, okay, I have to delay the launch, and it's happened, and it's like heart-wrenching, but I'm hoping, guys, that it'll be good. Crossing my fingers for awesome new styles, all different cap constructions, different, lengths. I'm a pixie girl, so I'll tell you there's a pixie in there that I absolutely love. And then later on in the year, we are launching something with a totally new type of cap construction. I hope you guys will really think is as amazing as I think it is. So we'll take a look at that.
I feel like there's a lot.
There's a lot in the works. There's
of
always a lot in the works,
things
but
that are really great.
Yeah.
But we have some things to look forward to later this year. So keep your eyes open. Thank you for sharing the process, because I think that once that's communicated, like people understand. But it's, when they don't know, they're kind of like, hey, what's up? Now you know that Grace and Tara and the whole team are really making sure that when you get the piece, you're going to be happy and satisfied. And, time and effort goes into that, and I think that that's great, because they could just put it out and have it be, whatever.
Can I just say, I just want to say thank you, like reading all your comments and stuff, she's wearing thin, like,
yeah, thanks,
you guys are, I mean, we couldn't do this without people like Tia, without all of you, honestly, it's just an amazing partnership. Like we don't operate in a vacuum. Like you guys are all so important to us. Our factories are important to us, our customers, the wig wearers, all of you guys, we are all working together, and we couldn't be where we are without all of the working partners that we have. So, thank you guys, and thank you for joining, and thank you, Tia, for giving us the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Yeah, hopefully we will see you guys soon. Thank you for taking some time. Enjoy your Tuesday. Thank you, everybody who's been here. I'll see you in the group. Let's keep chatting about this, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Kate,
Thank you.
Kate, I'm so glad you love your sky. Bye, guys.